Recording has started.
I call this meeting to order at 12:14 p.m. Please note that this meeting may be filmed and or audio recorded. These meeting minutes, any other addenda or documentation may be made available to the public. Senator Wayne, you can get a warning. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to our next new business, which is judicial nominations. We're going to go ahead and start off with the Chief Justice nominee. We're just going to go through all the ones that were old, and then we'll move on to the next pieces. So whenever you guys are ready to go ahead and deliberate, just let me know.
Which one are we reviewing first?
We're reviewing Chief Justice nominee Julia Van de Bogart.
And this is just an unmoderated discussion?
I'll be moderating it like I usually do.
Okay. So yeah, I think that...
I have not.
Oh.
I said we were going to review, and then I will let
okay.
y'all know. Thank you. Appreciate it. Like I said, when everyone's ready, just please give me a notice that you're ready. Let me know when you're ready. I'm just sort of myself. You're good? All right, so I'm actually going to go ahead and begin this discussion. As much as I have tried to be neutral to Julia Van de Bogart, I have a lot of very huge concerns with the fact that she has committed just casual procedural due process violations in her capacity as acting Chief Justice. Strategically, I'll explain. With the case on the docket for this upcoming Tuesday, which is in Fall 2023 election map, which was authored by primarily Gator-affiliated members. Both myself and the Senate President submitted emails to Ms. Van de Bogart, just requesting simply that she provide the documentation on the case, any information or things like that. She refused to and said that it wasn't within the court's practice. Now, I want to reflect on this real quick and just say that in the previous term when she was a Chief Justice, not Justice, but just a Justice in general, Chief Justice Wheatley not only did it for those individuals who submitted case briefs, but also submitted it to everyone to say that we are providing these briefs in practice. And so it was just very odd that she didn't want to provide that specific map. But then that wasn't where it ended. But after, consulting with her over a multitude of email correspondences, asking simply for her to just provide the documents, which not only are public record, but again, are within the practice because we would have been opposing parties since this case was dealing with the Senate's inability to be able to create an apportionment map. It took a multitude of times just for her to even come up and finally provide that documentation. I think that it's very concerning the fact that we have to sit there and essentially school a Chief Justice nominee on the basic principles of procedural due process, which is afforded not only within the United States Constitution, but the Florida Constitution, and also within our statutes in our University of Florida Student Government Constitution. I think that supporting this nomination she's lost all the qualifications needed to serve in this capacity. And I urge this committee just to vote down her nomination and request that Olivia Green consider a new nomination out of the pool of candidates that were submitted in that pool. That's all I have to really say.
Do we know if there have been any other nominees?
I don't think that that's necessary if we're talking about the nomination at hand. I just said that that's something that I would urge this committee to advocate for. If there were no other nominations, then just like other different aspects like the RNA process, we opened up the nominations again and request to see if a new person can come up. But until then, I think it's disgusting and disrespectful that someone would sit there and create procedural due process violations casually as a Chief Justice.
Yeah, I think we've had this nomination open for over a month now, and I do think that she has the experience. Again, I don't know what exactly happened.
We can provide the emails to you right now. I could CC them. Can you forward them as we speak? We can forward it to everyone in this committee.
Okay.
You can see exactly what we commented on.
And I just feel that she's the only person on the Supreme Court who has the experience necessary to be a Chief Justice.
The experience to be a Chief Justice, but then casually creates a procedural due process violation?
She's the only member who's been on it for over a term.
Well, unfortunately, I guess that means that we just did not sit there and we picked the cream of the crop, I guess. I guess the previous president didn't beat the cream of the crop, because unfortunately, how are we going to sit there and waiver that, oh, because someone actually sat on a court, when, let's be real, Janelle Roll was sitting on the Elections Commission and had to deal with similar procedures just as the Supreme Court does, and had to balance a lot of precedent that was superseding. So you're saying that she doesn't have the ability to serve in that capacity? I think that's just unfair to say. And I'm not saying that she applied for the position, but what I am saying is simply this. If you're going to postulate and put forward a nomination who will casually create a procedural due process violation, something that we learned in 7th grade civics, that we have those rights afforded to us in the Constitution, because of some reason, and in a very arbitrary and capricious manner, might I add you, because there was no even reasoning besides saying, oh, that's not within our court's practice, even though she was sitting on that same, that means that, and that goes right into the deep fact that she didn't even follow any of the information that she did, or that she applied the experience that she had to her even being acting Chief Justice, because she saw the Chief Justice, Ryan Wheatley, do the exact same thing openly, willingly to all the justices, including herself. So how are you going to sit there and postulate that? If you're going to approve her because she's an affiliate of yours, go right ahead. But unless you're going to sit there and give me a reason to say that that's not a procedural due process violation, I'm sorry, how is that going to be something waived because she sat on a court for a year? Barely a year, might I add you, because she was submitted and approved, I think, in September or October. Vice Chair Marcelino.
And I mean, I want to point out that previous incumbency doesn't just automatically mean that you are the most qualified in there. These other justices we put them for a reason. They have many different sorts of experiences within student government and just in the law in general. And so it doesn't, just because they haven't served on the court as long as acting Chief Justice Vanna Bogart has, doesn't necessarily disqualify them from the position. So it's rather we base it on merit rather than actual incumbency.
Senator Mayer.
I think a lot of the issues that are being brought up in the committee are issues that should be brought up on the floor of the Senate. Those are
This is with qualifications, though. Qualifications to understand law, basic principles of the Constitution.
I would argue that the member sitting on the Supreme Court with the only reasonable experience for Chief Justice position, the current acting Chief Justice does have the qualifications to serve the Chief Justice role. And aside from that, it can also be argued on the floor of the Senate. So I think we should take this to a vote.
You're saying table?
Take this to a vote.
Take this to a vote. You're saying you're going to want to take this to a vote, and you're saying that because she sat on a court. And let me volley you this question to you. So do you believe that someone knowing and applying the proper procedures within our United States Constitution, Florida's Constitution, and University of Florida Constitution, are you saying that's not a quality and a qualification that we need to consider?
Absolutely. I think it's a qualification.
So you're saying that,
I would like to finish my statement.
But you're saying it's a qualification, so you answer my question. I'm going to reclaim the time that I afford to you. My next question to you is this. So are you saying that because she sat on a court for less than a year, that supersedes the ability for her to be, that the fact that she created a procedural due process violation casually within her capacity as acting Chief Justice, literally overseeing the same responsibilities and roles? You're saying that that is the exact same bar. You're saying that's better. You're saying that role is higher, and that's my simple question. If it's not a yes or no, then we can move on to a vote. But if you're going to sit there and you're going to say that
it's not a yes.
Are you? So it's not a yes or no. So then, what is the meat? She created a procedural due process violation. Are you forgetting the basic principles of the Constitution? This is a casual procedural due process. This is stuff the courts deliberate on. So are you telling me that is way less important than that other thing, and you would instead vote to approve? I just want to make sure that's clear for the record.
What I'm not going to do is answer your leading question in terms of the weighting of both of the issues that you're presenting, but what I will do is say that these are issues that can be brought up on the floor of the Senate, and the Judiciary Committee should vote on this nominee, or proceed to a vote on this nominee.
Again, we just talked about qualifications, and that's what you're saying is you, in that vote, and whatever you're going to vote, if you vote to affirm, just so you know, and I'm not saying this because I'm trying to be belligerent, I'm just trying to say this because this is a basic right within our Constitution that the courts have to deliberate on multiple times. Not only within the United States, not even the Florida system, we've deliberated it here as well. So I just want to make sure that it's clear for the record that my opinion is this. You voting yes on this is you saying that someone creating a procedural due process violation, ignoring basic principles of the United States Constitution, is less important because they had less than a year experience sitting on the court. And I just want to say that that is my opinion. You can disagree with my opinion, that's fine. But I just want you to know that that's what I'm seeing on the record, and I think most people would agree to that determination.
And in the same manner, I'm rejecting the premise of that. I'm not agreeing to that statement, and I would say.
And again, then what is it then? What is it then?
You're not letting him finish
But what is it then? Explain to me what is making it so
You're giving these leading questions. You're not letting him answer
Yeah,
them
because
to the best of
it's
your
not a leading question, because I'm going to tell you why. It's a basic principle that was violated.
The thing is, number one, we don't know specifically what you're talking about, and number two,
I can forward the email to you right now.
Number two, when you've asked these questions and given us this information, you haven't given us the due time to talk. You interrupt us and keep giving us these monologues without us having any information about what you're talking about.
Okay, cool. I can forward the email to you right now. Senate President, can you forward it to the member, please?
If that is something I would like to see.
I think it's like
I think it's relevant.
Let's do it. It's been sent from my end. Can you just make sure not to include the case if you send it?
Yeah, I'll just remove the attachment.
Because it has FERPA protected that one.
Yeah, it has unified IDs, so I'm just removing the attachments if that's okay, because it's just the cases. But yeah, that's it.
She's saying she's following a rule. Is that rule non-existent? I don't understand what
She
she's
says
saying.
she's following the rule opposing parties, which again, she's saying that because it's not within the court's practice, that they're saying in that rule that that's the reason why she went with that. But I'm gonna be honest with you, if she already saw that Chief Justice Willie did the same as that thing, and again, she was supposed to submit it, regardless of that, because she even said it's a matter of public record.
Submit it. I don't understand.
The court case to all of us. Because not only is it a matter of public record, but specifically to me and Senate President Santiago Perez, it dealt with the capacities of both of our roles, because he oversees enforcement just as much as I do. Basic provision in our Constitution.
I respect that as well.
Basic provision.
Did she not make an exception? It says she made an exception under these circumstances.
Yes, she made an exception under these circumstances. There's no exception. It was her right and it was her duty.
But she went through with it. She did it.
Okay, it doesn't matter. She was still going to bar it. And you even see in the correspondence between Senate President Santiago Perez had to send multiple emails just for her to go ahead and barge just to provide that document.
Am I?
Go, Yes, I'll afford you time to be able to speak because clearly no one wants to actually listen to the fact that this was a procedural due process violation. Go ahead.
I have to send a long email explaining why, like, her point of not allowing access to this brief was, like, problematic for many reasons. And so the fact that she's already done it, like, I mean, she says it's an exception, so I have no reason to believe that she's not going to do this again, is kind of like the issue here. And if it's an exception, it means that one instance, maybe she'll not do it again, is the implication from that.
And like she even said in the email, it's a matter of public record. And she's telling me that, but she's not making that clear across the board. Because if any constituent is emailing her, it should automatically been submitted because it's a matter of public record. She even said that. So then why is she going into another email correspondence saying that's an exception? It's clearly showing to me that she has no capacity and no awareness of the basic principles of the University of Florida Constitution, the Florida Constitution, and the United States Constitution. And if you're going to go ahead and go forward with the vote, then go ahead and be proud of that vote. But I just want the record to know that that is my opinion as the chair, and a lot of folks would probably agree with that determination as well.
My opinion from this email correspondence, it seems that a law student got an email at 12 o'clock noon, and then by the end of the afternoon, you had the documents in your hand. That's all I see in this
It
document.
doesn't matter because it was the struggle to get those documents. Had we not provided that struggle, imagine we would have probably not fought for it. And like at the end of the day, that's ridiculous. It should have never been a barred thing. And funny enough, let's talk about it. You're a law student. You're encountering this law. You're debating this law. A lot of times you're looking at case law that's dealing with those elements. So the fact that you didn't sit there and use your legal mindset, the fact that she had the capacity to understand, in most courts, if they're requesting this within a reasonable time, and as I've seen in my experience with the previous Chief Justice, that they submitted it within a reasonable time, then I should probably just submit this instead of making it an issue or calling it an exception. Then, what does that make any sense? How does that make any sense? If you want to sit there and claim ignorance, go right ahead.
I'm not claiming anything.
But that's what it sounds like you're claiming.
I'm absolutely not claiming ignorance, and I detest that statement. However, at the end of the day, she says she outlined all the rules she was following. At the end of the day, she did get you the documents in your hand within an afternoon.
With struggle. Are you not going to say that's not with struggle because the fact that we've had to send multiple emails?
Sure, if that's your definition of struggle. But after this, I think I'm just going to call for a vote.
You can't call for a vote. I can call for a vote. So I will be calling for a vote. And that's your second warning. Next time you get a warning, then you could be the reason why all the ASUEs aren't approved and we won't have a special meeting. So let's go ahead and move on to a vote. Thank you. Oh, unless you want to speak, Vice Chair Marcelino.
Yeah. So I would just like to say that yes, the chairperson and the Senate president did get the documents at the end of the day. However, it's procedures and the actual way of getting it does matter, and that the ends do not justify the means in regard to that, especially when you're dealing with a court process and actually accessing information. As I said before, it's due process, being able to access information from both sides. And in the rule, stipulated in the rules of the Supreme Court, it's basically outlining how within 3 school days of the hearing of the petition that is being heard by the court, that members of the student body, including the Senate president and chairperson, may submit opposing briefs and like memorandums in opposition to the petitions that are being heard. And so that is the basic rule that is being applied here and is a basic right within all of judicial practice. And so being able to have access to that information, especially when obviously parties that are quite involved in this should have access to that information and are rightfully supposed to be handed that information in order for them to pose their own statements and like arguments against that. Just like how we have in the Senate, we debate. We have the right to debate in court, and having access to that information is crucial in being able to debate that in court. And so, the actual just the qualifications of being Chief Justice and understanding the actual processes by which we follow in order for these things to be as equal and fair as possible, that we don't exactly antagonize those that are just requesting information in order for them to just submit memorandums in regard to these petitions that are being heard by the court, which are supposed to be just a middle person rather than like an arbitrator rather than just like being like in terms that in lack of a better term, arbitrary and capricious. So yeah.
Any members wishing to speak in a bit? We're gonna move on to a vote. We're doing my roll call. Vice Chair Marcelino.
No.
Demera.
Yes.
Wang. And then Reich.
Senator Reich votes yes.
Cool, and then I'll vote no. That's going to be a 3-2 vote. That motion passes. Apparently be ignored, just basic rights, so that's great. We're going to move on to the next nomination, which is Jesse Dieterle, which is the, if I'm correct, the student body president nomination for elections commissioner. We'll have time to review the nomination, and then we'll go ahead and discuss.
The recording starts here and you take over the minutes.
Why? They usually need to go.
Yeah. I mean, technically, I have to
I think the
be out by
rest,
3.
the rest can be fine. That's okay.
I'll take over.
If you could just send the minutes, that'd be great.
And the recordings.